Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting into Silver Surfer Black, which is starting off pretty crazy from the gate, but that's Donny Cates for you. And my rule of thumb is if his name is on it, just buy it, because one, you already know it's gonna be good, and two, you already know it's gonna add value to anything of his that you've read before. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so you can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so before we get into Silver Surfer Black, real quick I just want to set the stage for where this is taking place. Because when we hop into Silver Surfer Black, it actually begins where the Calamity had left off in the New Guardians of the Galaxy, when Euros, the brother of Thanos, had called a meeting inviting pretty much every hero in the galaxy in reference to the last will and testament of Thanos, pretty much giving them the update about his new body. And I got a link down in the description if you guys need to get more familiar with that. But during that meeting when the Black Order pretty much crashed the party, this is where things got wild. Because when they arrived here catching all of the heroes off guard with the intention of stealing back the body of Thanos, they were aware at this point when they arrived here that they were ridiculously outnumbered. And you can say what you want, but the Black Order is not finna beat the Silver Surfer, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Beta Ray Bill, along with Moondragon, the Starjammers. I want to say Gladiator was there as well, like it's not gonna happen. And they were pretty much aware of this, and this is why Proxima Midnight had used a device which pretty much tore open the fabric of space and time, which created an anomaly that sucked everybody in except for a few that were able to escape. And the few that did escape were much thanks to Beta Ray Bill using Stormbreaker, which had tied to it Cosmic Ghost Rider's chains of Sidorak, to where he was able to pull himself out with a few others. And this is where Silver Surfer Black picks up on the other side of that black hole, like inside of it. Because at the time that this happened, he was the one person on the inside who had the most, if any, control to do anything once they were sucked in. And because that, it's here that we find out that he was the one who tied the chains of Sidorak to Stormbreaker in order to help those who we'd seen in Guardians of the Galaxy #1 pull their way back out. But so now as for the rest of the heroes who are like drifting hopelessly throughout space and time, they're all really subject to just wherever this vortex takes them if it doesn't tear them apart. And Norn-Rad, who's really fighting to keep himself together in all of this, he also uses his power cosmic to fill out this anomaly using his power cosmic and his cosmic awareness and filling it out much like I would imagine a surfer just filling out a wave, but in this case in the middle of a tsunami. But with doing so and holding himself together just enough, he finds a weak point within this wormhole and he uses what power he can conjure in order to break that weak point open and let this wave of heroes into safety, or at least in some point in time to where these heroes are no longer in this wormhole getting torn apart or being dragged into absolute nothingness. And Norn is not even sure like what point in time that they're being dropped off at. Like the only thing he is sure about is that wherever they're going is better than where they were. But after giving all the other heroes at least a chance to survive, this left Norn to himself falling for years into a void, which one gave him time to heal over those years, but still no certainty of a destination, if any, that he would ever have or if he would stop falling. But while falling for years, he would see flickers of light to where he noticed that something is killing in the dark, but yet and still he sees it at a distance that is like eons away. And at this point, with him having barely enough strength to conjure his board, he manifests his board, crawls on top of it, still weak at this point, and he makes his way there swiftly. And when he arrives to what appears to be this planet, he's met here by like 3 unnamed figures who speak to him an old language to which he's a little bit rusty at, but he interprets that they're telling him that their god is master. And so I gotta say real quick, just the way that these 3 look, they look much like they're members of the Orisha. And though I can't exactly put my fingers on like who exactly is who, like the style choice of their illustration just reminds me of that. Because if you guys remember back when we talked about Killmonger getting his own symbiote and absorbing Bast, in that video I talked a little bit about the Orisha. And they are like your ancient pantheon to which Bast belongs to, and they're also the original pantheon who had helped the first settlers of Wakanda take that land from the beasts and the creatures who inhabited that land before, which would be pretty wild if this is them, because it would line up kind of perfect with those old tales and that history and a lot of the lore that Ta-Nehisi Coates had laid out back in 2016-2017, especially with some of these beasts and creatures, quote unquote, looking a lot like the Outriders who were sucked into that black hole as well, which would be completely nuts if that hive-minded species ended up tying into Wakandan history that way. Like that would be crazy. but the figures standing at the gate, they do very much remind me of the Orisha. And if you want to get caught up on a bit more of their history, I got a link down in the description where you can check out my video about Killmonger getting his own symbiote and more of the story about what happened to the symbiote race thousands of years in the future from our present day, but still well before the end of time when Loki obtains the Necro Sword from Ego. But so now back to the Silver Surfer. With arriving here at this gate, they immediately see him as a threat, and as a result they begin to attack him, and he fights them off the best that he can within his weakened state. But even with doing so, like, he is losing miserably, and because he had let the other heroes out somewhere along time and space, he knows that throughout this fight he's pretty much on his own, which is kind of messed up, and because of that he has to come to a resolve within his own means. And with doing so, like, while these beings are like stocked on top of him, he releases an energy ball from his hand which arises upward, emitting a bright light to free him from their restraints. And this light that he's created knocks them back well enough to get him free, but with doing so, and what he's done is pretty much created this infant star which continues to rise up and illuminates this planet. But when he more or less gets these beings out of his way and he reapproaches this gate, he's aware that what's behind this gate has the power to enslave gods, and it's then that he hears a voice from behind the gate that says, "Hello, little son," and it snatches him inside. And upon his entry, it's here that he meets Knull, the god of the symbiotes, which is insane. And I gotta say, like, back in Guardians of the Galaxy when everyone was sucked into that black hole, like, I was hoping for something like this. Like, I was hoping for anyone to go back and explore this history with Knull and either witness him from afar off, let alone get this close. But with the heroes getting sucked throughout time and space, I was truly hoping that somehow someone would come back here and meet Knull, because the way that Donny Cates originally set up his character and his history, there is a lot of time to go back and play with, and even going back to the notion of what he was doing during that time, and even possibly who else he may have came across throughout the course of time, or even what we've seen here happen with the Silver Surfer. To which I feel like this happening with the Silver Surfer within his own series is just like perfect, especially with it being done with like your Jack Kirby-esque type of art, because y'all already know who the real Silver Surfer is.
Kind of nonsense, I'm gonna write you up, you understand? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You have to set an example even in the face of stupidity. Now, everybody that reads comic books knows that Kirby's Silver Surfer is the only true Silver Surfer. Now, am I right or wrong?
You're right, sir.
All right, get out of here.
Yes, sir.
But I've always felt like Tradmore's art has held this inspiration from Jack Kirby, which kind of makes the story feel like it's being told like back in your Kirby era. Or maybe that's just me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But with the Silver Surfer who's pulled in here by Knull, the god of the symbiotes, to whom he puts up a fight with, and for the most part he doesn't do too bad. But it's here where he goes against Knull that he actually recognizes him from the future, because we're told prior to this point, traveling all the way back to the beginning of time, at one point where the Silver Surfer was scouting planets for Galactus, he had came across Clintar, and at that time when he was observing this planet and seeing if it was fit for Galactus to feed on, it had actually pulled him in, and it was then that he realized that this wasn't a planet, but it was actually a prison. And when he was pulled into this prison, he had seen Knull, and Knull had seen him. And it's here at the beginning of time when he recalls that memory that he's like, okay, I kind of got an idea of who this guy is. And of course, while he's here meeting Knull, Knull makes it pretty clear himself. Like, he tells the Surfer that he is Knull, he's the god of the darkness, and the darkness is literally everywhere, so he's pretty much the god of everything. And with Knull saying this and proclaiming his ownership, he then takes his hold on the Silver Surfer, and he begins attaching the symbiotes of his creation to Norrin in order to make him the Void Knight, which is also wild, with the Silver Surfer more or less becoming your true first host, with Knull giving him a symbiote and making him the Void Knight. And I'm not even going to try and imagine like how powerful the Silver Surfer is in this stage, with power cosmic awareness, and his symbiote, though I would also imagine that some of his powers would kind of contradict the others. Like, you're not finna go fly through the sun with this thing, which is something the Silver Surfer could do, but I don't think the Void Knight would do. But with Knull making Norrin the Void Knight, he sees some of the Surfer's memories and he recognizes that he has broken light before, and he tells Norrin because of this that he knows what must be done. And it's very likely that Knull at this point, being that he still possesses the Necro Sword, that at this point he's already fought and killed a Celestial, and this is taking place at a point in time when he's preparing for payback and initially setting things up to reclaim the universe and return it to darkness. But it's during this time that Norrin hears a voice call him, and it calls him Herald, while blasting a beam of light onto him and like telling him this is gonna hurt, brace yourself, but essentially creating a window of opportunity for the Silver Surfer to get away. But once he's free of the symbiote, he then tries to go against Knull, but that same voice is just like, nah, big fella, don't do it, big fella. Like, you ain't ready to face him, big fella. Just follow my voice and get out of there as quick as you can. And And being smart, the Silver Surfer takes heed and he gets out of there. But it's here where we see Knull call the three who we had seen earlier, who we also find out are his children, but to whom he refers to as his acolytes. And for the record, so no one gets confused, these aren't your acolytes from WWF.
Watch this, look at this! No! That thing weighs about 300 pounds!
Just so nobody gets that confused. But he tells the three of them to watch the throne because he's going to leave for a short while because he has a star to kill. And upon leaving them, he takes the Necro Sword and he mounts Grendel, which is surprisingly fast enough to keep up with the Silver Surfer. And for Norrin, who was just like, man, I felt something cold on the back of my neck, the next thing I knew, the cold had teeth, and those teeth was right behind him. But with the Surfer knowing that in his condition especially, he was not outrunning Knull, so he had to think quick, and he turned around, created another energy ball, and pretty much flew it right through this guy. And I mean, Grendel took this dwarf star right through the rooter to the tutor, which then ignited and dissolved the Grendel, throwing Knull off of it into space, but yet and still leaving the Surfer with part of the Void Knight symbiote still attached to him and spreading over his body. But it's here with him barely having get away that he's drifting off in space that we find out the person who's been talking to him this whole time and leading him away from Knull, as it turns out, it's Ego, the living planet, who tells Norrin that he's here to help him kill a god, which is crazy seeing Ego show up here, especially with what we've seen take place throughout Jason Aaron's run leading up to the War of Realms, and Ego's involvement with the Necro Sword like eons in the future. Like, this is wild. But that'll do it for this one, guys. And so now at this point in time, at the beginning of time, with the Silver Surfer getting away and meeting up with Ego, he still has the piece of that symbiote attached to his hand, and Knull floating around somewhere in space in the darkness, ready for round 2. And so you know I can't wait to see where this goes. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.